Today, our history is hidden beneath a multi-layered veil of ancient times, which seems to cover not only mysteries and secrets stretching far back into the distant past, but also constitutes a dense layer of soil. This soil, evenly spread across the entire surface, conceals entire floors of ancient buildings and architectural structures that have sunk to depths unreachable by the naked eye. All our history is rooted deep beneath the Earth's surface. Monuments, cities, and entire civilizations are hidden under thick layers of earth and sometimes sand. The question arises, where did this mighty layer, the soil covering ancient structures, come from? And what exactly does this mysterious mass conceal underneath? Let's try to unravel these secrets. Keep in mind that what we face is not just a layer of earth, it's a kind of large sheet of history, compressed over centuries and millennia. Today's dawn illuminates our planet, and sometimes our eyes are incapable of perceiving the full complexity of the picture that unfolds before us. When we look at a building, we see only its top, the tip of an iceberg extending deep into the ground, the very iceberg that conceals hundreds and thousands of unknown floors built by ancient masters. But was it always like this? What does the modern layer of soil and sand hide beneath? Where did these massive layers of cultural soil, covering entire cities, come from? Is it enough to simply assure that it's just dirt? And moreover, what is hidden inside behind those mysterious sands? Where did so much sand come from that it turned vast continents into lifeless deserts? What happened to turn once fertile lands into dry and leave only black oil where water once was? How did organic matter buried under the scorching sun for centuries turn into oil and gas? All these organic residues, submerged under the crumbling heat of the sun, ended up in silent silence, covered with layers of sand and stone. Today, we will delve beneath these sands and try to understand the true reason for the formation of the deserts familiar to us, and figure out what they truly conceal. Afterwards, we will attempt to determine whether these sands are connected to artificial processes or are the result of natural Earth development. And at the end, we will look at mysterious photographs, which not only evoke awe, but also raise questions. For example, where did ancient railroads come from in Africa? Why has no one spoken about their existence until now? I have always been curious why, whenever excavations are carried out, something very deep is discovered. Entire floors of old cities, abandoned streets and buildings, hidden beneath layers of earth and sand. We are told that these structures are a cultural layer formed over centuries. But when you compare them, these layers differ. In most regions, for example in the north, the cultural layer accumulates slowly, about 1 centimeter per century. Therefore, to form a dense layer of 2 meters, it would take at least 2,000 years. In Caucasia or in other places where archaeologists conduct excavations, the layers often form much faster. Sometimes everything is preserved perfectly for just 2 months of decomposition. This paradox immediately raises a key question. How could such a thick cultural layer or sand deposit form over a relatively short period? And where do these mountains of sand, which leave no one indifferent, come from in the first place? They look incredible, like mysteries of nature, or the result of ancient disasters from long past times. We ask ourselves, what is really behind all this? Could it all be not just a random natural phenomenon, but the result of long-forgotten processes connected to climate changes, geological cataclysms, or even, in a more mystical sense, the activities of civilizations that once lived here? Or perhaps this land holds even more mysteries than we realize, and the answers to all questions are hidden deep within the ancient layers buried beneath sands and soil. The urban desert, or the so-called smart wasteland, covers an area no smaller than a continent, and sometimes even exceeds its size, which is both surprising and intriguing. Imagine an endless space covered with a thick layer of sand, stretching for thousands of kilometers. Under such conditions, heat and drought strike immediately, as soon as the sun's rays mercilessly burn down, reminiscent of the harshest climate. The first thing that comes to mind is the enormous Sahara Desert, which seems to be the largest in the world. However, it's important to know that it ranks in scale only behind one other, the most mysterious and largest desert on the planet, Antarctica. This icy desert is also considered a desert, although the climate and conditions there are entirely different. Today, we will focus only on sandy deserts and try to understand where such an impressive mass of sand, piled over vast areas, came from. One constant question is, why are almost large sandy deserts practically absent in America, except for one small one, while the rest of the continent is covered with chaotic layers of sand scattered across the map? It's like a gigantic testimony that an ancient civilization once located on these lands left behind countless cemeteries and ruins buried under sands. But the main mystery is the origin of the greatest desert itself. Why did it arise exactly here? And why did it become so ruthless and vast? The name, which locals pronounced as Sahara, means the largest. And this is no coincidence. The climate there is so harsh and unpredictable that life is nearly impossible. Daytime temperatures soar over 30 degrees Celsius, and at night they can drop to 0 or even 10. Only these sharp temperature swings create a unique atmosphere that has, for centuries, swallowed not only animals and humans, but entire cities as well. In modern conditions, the desert continues to expand, seemingly absorbing new lands without stopping or hesitation. But where exactly did this massive accumulation of sand, which caused such a natural catastrophe, come from? How could it have formed in a place that now seems like a separate continent? And it's worth noting, these sizes are not limited to a single point on Earth. The map shows that similar deserts are scattered across different continents, many of which stretch over vast areas, despite their sizes being astonishingly large and surpassing the territories of some countries. Speaking of sizes, our perceptions of territory can sometimes be distorted. For example, Africa, which appears to us as a continent larger than Russia, actually has roughly twice its area. We are used to perceiving maps exactly as they are shown, because from a young age we are taught that this is correct. However, when we compare sizes realistically, it becomes clear that Africa is much larger than it seems on the map. Some may be surprised to learn that the 30 million square kilometers covered by Africa significantly exceeds Russia's 17 million square kilometers. But most of us simply believe what we are told without questioning how our perceptions can be distorted or exaggerated. Just imagine the scale of the mysterious processes involved, narrated to us without revealing all the nuances and details. Where could so much sand have come from? It didn't fall from the sky, nor did it form out of nowhere. This is an enormous mass that has accumulated over centuries through complex geological and climatic processes. The desert's structure and forms are striking. Just look at the clear boundaries separating different parts of its landscape, how sharply contrasting features stand out, creating a sense of wholeness and unity. In fact, such features tell us a lot about how nature drew these lands millions of years ago. As for the Atacama Desert in Chile, it seems to challenge the story usually told to us. This is the very desert that, according to official data, is considered the driest in the world. According to reports from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, it covers an area exceeding 150,000 square kilometers and is recognized as the driest place on the planet. Its average annual rainfall amounts to only 1 millimeter. As a result, the region forms unique landscapes, basins, lava flows, patches of sand, all seemingly frozen in silence and lifelessness. But unexpectedly, something astonishing happened. This desert lit up and blossomed. Doesn't that evoke surprise and shatter all conventional ideas of a hostile, barren wasteland? Indeed, the Atacama Desert, which by nature should remain arid and infertile, achieved the incredible. It blossomed like a miracle, provoking even more questions among scientists. Take a closer look at this landscape. No, this is not Antarctica, covered with ice and snow, nor is it a desert with intertwined fine snowflakes. It is a light, almost snow-white sand, in which the quartz has been completely replaced by gypsum, making it unique and radically changing its appearance. This pure white covering gives the region a completely different look. It is not just a desert with high sand dunes and peculiar barkens, nor a strip of lifeless rocks and rocky hills. Cacti, tumbleweed, and rare thickets are also present here, while vegetation is almost absent. However, it is interesting to note that, according to statistics, sands occupy only 15% of the entire area of this territory, while the main space is taken up by extensive, rugged plateaus that wind and create a complex and astonishing landscape. But how did these sandy elevations form? What processes underlie the development of this unique region? Of course, textbooks tell us about this. The explanation is simple. Apparently, it all happened because, initially, goats, domestic livestock, especially sheep and camels, inhabited this land. Over time, as they grazed, the official version states, the vegetation disappeared. Imagine, the livestock was so numerous and so actively consumed everything alive that the plants simply couldn't recover. As a result, the entire green vegetation capable of functioning as a natural shield and a food source for animals and plants was trampled and eaten away. But is this really the case? Don't you think that perhaps all the vegetation was literally evaporated, the top layer of soil, along with roots and seeds, was removed? In other words, as if a powerful tool had stripped the soil, leaving only a solid foundation behind. This action would have removed the entire topsoil layer, everything that could have regenerated and sprouted anew. It can be assumed that such an impact, a professional, targeted, and quite extensive one, could have been related to deliberate actions. And if we believe this, then a question arises. Did someone leave a trace in this land? Or is this solely the result of natural processes that shape these astonishing landscapes, despite all the assumptions about the destructive effects of livestock and human activity? Undoubtedly, many traces of past eras remain on the Earth's surface, although many have been buried over the centuries within the depths of the sand, and only gradually are they being uncovered. In the foreseeable future, we can observe with awe how some remnants of civilizations, hidden beneath layers of compacted sand, are gradually revealing themselves to our view. Among them are such traces that can be considered remnants of long-lost ages. Some of them have vanished so long ago that it seems as if they have been frozen forever within the layers of centuries. Part 5 of 8. It's surprising because if we start excavations across the entire area of these sandy layers, we are quite likely to discover numerous unexpected artifacts, remnants of ancient buildings, significant signs of once thriving communities, and, what's especially interesting, even fragments of soil. These findings clearly reflect a change of epochs. Initially, there was fertile, nourishing land, rich in life and natural abundance. And then, very quickly, without extended processes, these areas were covered by a layer of sand. Just look at the modern landscape, next to what appears to be an abandoned, impassable Gobi Desert, and you'll notice an important fact. It seems as though a whole heap of sand was poured directly onto a layer of earth. This creates the impression that, beneath this imposing sand layer, some ancient objects are hidden. It is quite logical to assume that beneath this sand mask, there are not just forgotten debris. Perhaps entire cities, and even entire civilizations, are concealed there. They abandoned their dwellings so suddenly that we still know nothing about them. This intriguing idea is highlighted by the fact that modern deserts are not always originally such. Once, these places were teeming with life, as evidenced by numerous ancient maps created long ago and preserved to this day. These maps clearly show the ruins of fortresses, fields prepared for harvest, and pastures where livestock grazed. Wild animals roamed these areas in search of food, riverbeds were filled with fish, waters splashed actively, speaking of a once vibrant life. Let's pay particular attention to one such historical map, created in the 16th century. It depicts densely populated coastlines of Africa, dotted with cities and river systems. In the center of the map, large urban settlements are visible, which essentially indicate a high population density at that time. This was the very time in the 17th century when, according to the maps, an active and vibrant life was raging here. Conversely, the modern map of Africa appears as a nearly lifeless piece, where there is no trace of those ancient cities and settlements. Many metropolises have disappeared, either buried under sands or destroyed by time and oblivion. The entire continent today looks abandoned, eerily hollow, and dead-born. There is another map that evokes rather strange thoughts. Interestingly, in the 16th century, deserts are almost absent on it. Instead, almost the entire territory, now covered by deserts, is depicted as green, densely populated with vegetation, with rich climates and vibrant civilizational scenes. Forests are shown there. Moreover, on the centers of these maps, one can often see images of European kings, towers, castles, a curious combination of images from past epochs and different geographic realities. What is the secret of these maps? How could it happen that in the 17th century in Africa, maps depicted such thriving, vibrant places, while today these areas are lifeless deserts? Perhaps these images are not incorrect drawings, but reflections of a different reality that existed here in ancient times. This means that if a city or fortress is depicted on a map, it is quite possible that such structures truly existed or still lie beneath the ground. Our excavations confirm this. Remnants are found and studied as if trying to reconstruct long-lost pages of history. Thus, we begin to realize that some vanished objects and entire civilizations are simply hidden beneath layers of time and sand, and perhaps the truth about them still awaits discovery. In recent years, the area in question has remained mostly quiet, but not due to a lack of events or interest. Under the tense political situation, many prefer to remain silent so as not to attract undue attention. Meanwhile, deep within the famous Sahara Desert, a unique archaeological site was recently discovered, a city buried under the sands for over 1,000 years. This historical site, named Timbra, is one of the rare examples of well-preserved settlements from ancient times. In its ruins, handwritten documents have been found, preserved thanks to the dry climate, along with evidence of religious, military, and administrative life of those ancient people. The most striking part of this archaeological complex, its reconstructed fragments, reveals the rich history of this territory. Among the ruins of a modern city that we can observe today, there is one particularly interesting natural monument, a massive, resembling the foundation remains of an entire city. This allows us to understand that, at one time, the population of this region was sufficiently developed and technologically advanced to build structures that exceeded in complexity and scale those typical of their era. However, everything changed with the onset of a severe drought, and this thriving city, once filled with life, was suddenly swallowed by sands, its buildings and slowly dying gardens and forests fading into eternity. The people who once lived in these places vanished overnight, leaving behind only ruins and dreams of the past. Analyses of maps indicate that this happened quite recently, meaning the history of this region has a very recent past. Today, the Sahara Desert is the largest and most ruthless in the world, and almost all its borders are inaccessible for scientific research. The entire region is engulfed by bloody conflicts, where the struggle for control over resources has turned into a fight for water. Instead of resources essential for life, the inhabitants are fighting for the sacred, water. And this is quite natural, for in such conditions, no one would drink oil to quench their thirst. Water is true wealth, as it is essential for all living beings. Few people know that beneath the desert lie not just underground rivers or lakes, but entire seas, vast water expanses scattered throughout the subterranean layers. Based on their volumes, it can be estimated that this water would be sufficient to meet the needs of the entire continent for 500 years. Former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi was aware of these natural riches beneath the Sahara. He fully understood their existence and decided to embark on a grand project, creating the Great Artificial River, which would become the eighth wonder of the world. The total length of this underground hydrosystem was about 4,000 kilometers. Most importantly, the Libyan government and people did not charge for water, as marine treasures were hidden deep underground and could provide oxygen, water, and life for entire generations. However, as is well known, the story of this ambitious plan ended sadly after Gaddafi's overthrow. His ideas and the inspiration he provided for so many years vanished with him, and the dreams of water supply for the African continent were lost forever. In the future, I plan to show you something unusual, quite astonishing. In the very center of the desert stretch what are called roads, long strips extending for dozens of kilometers. What are these structures? They are definitely not railways. How could people have previously moved across such an enormous and lifeless space? Crossing such a vast area, equivalent in size to two Russias, would only have been possible with special pathways. Indeed, these road lines give the impression of long, winding routes, like traces of ancient technologies or man-made pathways. But what are they really? Around these so-called roads, there are small extinct volcanoes, as if frozen in silent anticipation of their secrets. Nearby, there are enormous pits and craters that look as if they were formed by unnatural forces of natural cataclysms. These craters resemble not lunar landscapes or Martian horizons, but rather fantastic scenes from another world. Surprisingly, it is exactly in this place, which appears abandoned and motionless, that many secrets of the past are hidden. Currently, only a few ride over these dunes and sandy ridges, pickup trucks with machine guns, as if guarding the area. Perhaps they are protecting these mysterious routes from unwanted visitors or, conversely, driving away curious explorers seeking to penetrate the depths of these ancient structures. Such guards create the impression that this region is something important, protected by some secret or dangerous mystery. If you enjoyed this video, I am confident that its value will be appreciated. Don't forget to share it with your loved ones so they can learn the truth about this astonishing place. After all, knowledge is power, and discoveries in such fields help us better understand the history and mysteries of our planet. And do not forget that numerous new and exciting discoveries lie ahead of us, revealing even more secrets and astonishing facts. Parting with this world is inevitable. And remember, the dawn of new knowledge and discoveries is just around the corner.